Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knick family. Welcome to Lunchtime Live, Knicks Recap and Reaction Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, a.k.a. Queen, joined by Geoff Klafter of the Happily Ever Klafter Daily Sports Blog, as well as resident panelists on the weekly show. The Knicks played at Golden State last night and lost 126 to 113. We are 1-3 on the 4-game West Coast swing. Thank goodness we're coming home. I think it is Saturday versus Phoenix. We played without Brunson. We played without Robinson. Shamet was back. And, you know, I thought the Knicks played better, but we lost. I will say this before I turn it over to Geoff. I am confident that what we're seeing of late is not this team's ceiling. And you can't convince me otherwise. Do we have to play better defense? Yes. At our best, are we a top 10 defensive team? In my opinion, no. Do we need to be? In my opinion, no. But we have to be better than we have been over the last 10 games, which is 29th out of 30 teams in defensive rating. Do we need a bit more stability in our rotations? I think so. I think some of it has been, you know, Mike Brown trying different things, but some of it has been injuries, like Brunson missing basically the last 2 games. Is there something amiss with the chemistry, the connection? I think so. I really do think so. But I do believe the Knicks will figure it out and still finish top 2 in the Eastern Conference. I really do. We're not this bad. We're just not. I think when we were rolling, you know, some would say we weren't that good. But I think when we were rolling, I think that's the Knicks. We were active on defense. We were engaged. And right now we just look flat. I'm not sure if losing has something to do with it. I'm not one that thinks that the Knicks need major changes this season. I just think this is an extended rough patch. And good teams go through them. We're in one now. But I do believe that we're going to approach our ceiling as the season goes on. Doesn't mean I'm not frustrated right now, but I'm just not gonna take this bad stretch and just say this is who the Knicks are. This is the true Knicks who we've seen over the past 10 games. I just don't believe it. Anyway, Geoff, thank you for your patience.
No, it's,
how are you? And how's it how's it been?
Well, you know, I don't usually write my recaps of the games until after the show because I like to get your spin on it and I like to get the take of the chat before I get all of my thoughts finalized and put a recap together, which will be out in the morning. But I didn't do that today because I had some thoughts, and I guess I'll, you know, spoil the article by sharing them now. You know, I'm not one who believes in moral victories. I never have been. You know, a loss is a. I don't, you know, and I also like if you win by the skin of your teeth, I don't think that matters either. Just get the win any way you can. Like I don't buy into the moral victory argument. And it's been a while since we've been 1-3 on a West Coast trip. That was one of the things under Tom Thibodeau that we always seemed to kind of rally around. Even if we weren't playing well, I think one of our seasons actually got rescued on a good performance on the West Coast, and this wasn't really the murderer's row of competition. I mean, Phoenix isn't bad. I'm not, and you know, Golden State is playing well now, but these aren't the best teams in the West. And Sacramento is, you know, up until the last 3 games been an absolute dumpster fire. You know, and good teams win on the road, right? That's if you're going to be a championship team, you win road games. And right now, almost all of our damage has been done on our home floor. We're 16-4 at MSG, which is great. And we've actually now played more road games than we have home games, which hasn't been the case for most of the season. So, but I said all that to say this: the three losses on this road trip are all completely different.
Right.
Like, so sometimes there are themes to losses, like you just get down early, you dig yourself a hole and you can't come back, or you have a third quarter of doom all the time, or you have the lead and you let go of the rope in the fourth quarter, whatever the case may be.
Is it me or did Jeff freeze?
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Oh,
I think I just left
yeah.
the room for
Okay.
a second.
Okay. Yeah, you froze on this end, but we can hear you now.
My internet is
We can hear you now.
sorry, my internet is not. It's West Texas on Friday. It thinks the weekend started already. Apparently, did I unfreeze?
Yes, you're unfrozen. I didn't take it for
Okay.
granted.
All right. So we have we have three completely different types of losses. Like in the Phoenix game, it was tied at 101 and we collapsed down the stretch, and Royce O'Neal hit a big three that kind of killed us. Then we had the Sacramento game where we couldn't hit water if we fell out of a boat. Listless, lack of energy, just bad from pillar to post. And the effort was called into question and those sorts of things. And then you had last night where we came out of the gate gangbusters. I mean, to be honest, but even at 31-14, it really didn't feel sustainable to me. I felt like our shooters were going to cool down, and it was going to be a case of whether we could make up the difference by getting to the charity stripe and getting some defensive stops, of which we did really neither one. And the shooting did cool off for us, even though it never did for them, because our defense is pasta colander. You just lift it up and the water goes right through. And some of the worst defense I've ever seen. I have to agree with shout out to JJ in the chat. I mean, just horrendous. But for those whose Towns didn't look like a player who quit yesterday to me. He looked like a player who played stupid. Yes. Especially when I want to get into more of the specifics on that later, but the Knicks starters were active. They were engaged. It's frustrating because if they played like that against Sacramento, we have a 2-2 trip, right? But we came out flat against the Kings. We paid the piper for it. And then, you come out against a better team like the Warriors and things turn out different. And so, we got off to the hot start, but it wasn't sustainable. And we just, in the second quarter, they really turned up the screws on us defensively with their second unit, and our second unit collapsed underneath that pressure, and we never really recovered. And whether you want to blame that on Kolek specifically or Yabu, who just seems to be unplayable at this point, Huck Bordy's minutes were much better, and I would prefer if the Yabusele experiment was over at this point. I guess that I'm at the end of my rope with him. Like, I don't care to see him in the lineup anymore. And Clarkson had another bad game. And so that unit really, really got abused, by guys like Moses Moody. And I mean, Moody hit his first 6 threes. He even had one bounce up and in the second half. That Podozemski or whatever his name is, I just call him Pods, was, I just wanted to punch him in the face, but he was incredible. I mean, tough shot making. He was 8 of 9 from the field. Like, if you're getting beat by Steph Curry, and Curry had a big second half, he made some massive shots in the fourth quarter. He's going to do that. But really, it was guys like Moody and Podozemski or whatever his name is. Again, I know I'm butchering
Hot,
it,
hot.
but
Yeah.
but those are the guys who killed us last night, you know, and they you know, you can't make it that easy for teams. I mean, they got wide open looks from three, and they were, you know, they were 60% from the field and 50% from three for most of the night. They kind of calmed down and when it got to a bit garbage time in the fourth quarter, but for the most part, that's what they shot. And no basketball team, I don't care how good your offense is going to win under those conditions. Even if Jalen Brunson is healthy, you're probably not winning that game of allowing those types of things. But you would think that we would be better defensively because Brunson is allegedly one of our weak links on the defensive end, and we were just as atrocious without him as we were with him. And that was a disappointment to me. You would figure that the point of attack defense would be much better, and that would keep us in the game, but it was not the case at all against the Warriors, and I don't really understand why.
The defense is just broken right now. I don't know if it's schemes. What you to your point, Deuce is the point of attack defender, right? So if guys aren't getting in the lane, you know, you should be able to get to. You're not in rotation. You should be able to get to 3-point shooters. I didn't think Deuce was really good as a point of attack defender. Listen, I'm not. This loss is not on Deuce defensively. I don't think anybody was good defensively. I don't think we navigated screens correctly. I mean, well, I don't think we tried to get back in the picture when we were picked off. I don't think anybody came over to kind of hedge a little bit to give you the opportunity to get back into the defense. Has just been atrocious. And listen, you already know how I feel about the Knicks defense. Like if you want a top 10 defense, then you need to speak to Leon Rose, because he put this team together. That front office put this team together. You go out and get Cat, you go out and get Yabusele, you go out and get Clarkson. You're not looking at a top 10 defensive team. Like, to me, that is a roster construction issue.
We can't be 31st though either, though. Like
this is the point I'm about to make. You know, that being said, this team could be better than 29th, which they've been over the past 10 games. There was a time when they were 10, 11, and maybe you weren't a big believer in it, but you could see the energy. You could see the effort. You could see them sticking to whatever the game plan is. Like now, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the scheme is. Now, obviously we don't know what the scheme is, but you can look at the game and be like, all right, you know, they've decided to switch today, or all right, you know, they've decided that Cat is not going to be in drop today. He's going to be at the level of the screen. Okay, for this game. Like, you could kind of look at the game and see what I'm looking at the game and I'm like, yo, what the hell are we doing? Like, what is the game plan? Right? Defensively. So you don't got to be 10, but you got to be around 15 at the very, very least. And your offense needs to be pumping. Now, that being said, you know, there were some good things last night. You know, Cat with 20 rebounds. You know, Mikal Bridges coming out really aggressive, though that trailed off and he only took one shot in the fourth quarter. But through 3 quarters, he had 21 points. OG Anunoby was back to being his aggressive self, bully ball, going into the lane. You know, that 3-pointer that they took away because he didn't get it off in time, like, really hurt, you know, when we were making our run. So to Jeff's point, we lost for different reasons. So I don't think it's fair to just, you know, put it all together and say, you know, we've lost, you know, 3 games out of the 4 because of this one reason. I think defense has been pretty consistent, but the other things have kind of been, you know, up and down. It was good to see Cat respond. Like, it was good to see him not be so in his feelings. Oh, I'm reading into it. Like, he took 1 shot in the second half. I'm like, oh, he must have been in his feelings, you know. But, you know, today, come on, 20 rebounds, 8 offensive, you know, rebounds. You know, he showed up on the offensive end. Deuce McBride, you know, 25 points, 6 assists. His shooting was, you know, his shooting was phenomenal, even if his defense wasn't. But, you know, it's Steph, it's Steph Curry. Um, to me, I just think there's something amiss other than the defense, obviously. I just think there's something amiss with this team in terms of chemistry, connection, and that might be woo-woo for some people. Like, yo, hit shots, all that other shit don't really matter. But I just feel like something is amiss with this team. And the last thing I'll say to piggyback off of what Geoff said, the bench was a hot mess. The bench was just a mess. Now, McBride would have been on that bench, right? If Brunson, was healthy and that would have helped us. But, Yabu didn't play well. He only played 4 minutes though. So I'm not jumping on, somebody who played 4 minutes. Wasn't a great 4 minutes. And Clarkson wasn't particularly well, didn't play particularly well. And I didn't think Kolek played particularly well either in his 12 minutes, despite the 5 assists that he had. But to your point, Geoff, we're losing for different reasons on different days, though the defense has been a consistent, or lack thereof, I should say.
I think there was a critical stretch, and one of the plays I want to highlight and kind of get your thoughts on. So it was 99-90 in the fourth quarter, and Draymond Green grabs Cat's ankle and gets called for the flagrant 1 instead of a flagrant 2. It should have been an ejection. There's no place for that kind of play in the game. And if they're truly in the realm of player safety, that has to, like that. There's nothing basketball play about that. That should have been an automatic ejection. Towns misses a free throw, then gets called for the offensive foul when pretty much it looked like Podziemski ran into his elbow. He didn't swing it or anything. Like, he just had it out. Podziemski's trying to navigate the screen and just runs into his elbow. And apparently that's a foul, and reviewed for being flagrant, by the way, which I thought was, look, if I never see Jason Goldbull ref a game again, I will throw a party, and everybody's invited. Like, if the day he retires, I will have a retirement party for him just because he'll be out of the league. I just can't stand his officiating, but that could have been that ended up being a potential 4 or 5 point swing, because we missed the free throw, we didn't get a shot, and I think if you cut, and even as you said, when they discounted the Anunoby 3, which I don't think they should be able to do. Like, if you're going to review it in real time, stop the game and look at it. Don't have play continue, and then in the backgrounds in Secaucus, New Jersey, 4 minutes later you decide that the shot doesn't count. No, that should not be how that works. But that's another discussion. But to me, that was a critical point in the game, and right after that, though, is when Towns picked up his 5th foul on a really slight contact with Draymond Green, who was smartly attacking him. So he picks up 2 fouls right there, has to go to the bench, and so I think that whole sequence kind of in the fourth quarter kind of derailed the train for the Knicks. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think he picked up foul 4 and 5 within like 30 seconds, like within 30 seconds of each other. I just thought the OG overturn was just, to me, it just seemed like a momentum killer. It wasn't the only one, though. It wasn't the only one, but that was one of them. Towns, like you said, with the picking up the 4th and 5th foul. First of all, the foul where they got tangled up, I'm like, I didn't even see how that was a foul on, on Cat. In the first half, though, that second one where he has to go to the bench early, I'm like, come on. But that one, no, OG, and there was another momentum. Okay, like not throwing out Draymond Green, and the Knicks not taking advantage of that that whole possession. So there was
And
like,
then Pajemski comes in the lane early on the free throw and like jumps on top of, like, there's not a basketball play, literally jumps on top of OG Anunoby, and it's a common foul. Like, when do you just get to run in like a linebacker and just like run through somebody? Like, I don't. And then on the other end, we don't get, they clobber Towns and we don't get a whistle. So I don't really understand how these games, like, I don't really care. Like, if you're gonna let them play, I'm okay with that. But what's a foul on one end has got to be consistent on the other. You can't just decide that Pajemski can pretty much have free reign to be physical and do what he wants, especially to Cat. And then on the other end, you sneeze on Jimmy Butler and he gets to go to the free throw line. Like, I just want some consistency and make it make sense. And I know they didn't get a ton of free throws, but there were some calls in that game that were significant that went against the Knicks that could have helped at any rate. But that's not the reason we lost the game. I mean, we had other difficulties as well, but that whole sequence in particular was one that really bothered me.
Yeah. I don't really have much to say, Geoff. We're just in we're in a rough spot. I don't know. I don't even, like, are the defensive, is it that the players are just not adhering to the defensive schemes, or is it that the defensive schemes just aren't great?
Well, in the first half, like, Curry didn't really go off. So if you're gonna make the art case, and I don't know that it's a bad one, that look, we're gonna try and limit Curry and what he has to do. And if and I thought both Moody and Pajemski made some tough shots too. I don't think every look that they took was like the wide open variety, although they did have some of those as well. But if that's your game plan, is to shut him down and kind of key in on Jimmy Butler, like, those are the two big big weapons. So, focus on them first, and use a little more attention to that. But, in the second half, Curry was getting everything he wanted. Butler was getting everything he wanted in both halves. I mean, I think he ended with 32, and then, and you weren't stopping these other guys anyway. I mean, you've got to at least be taking something away, and we don't take anything away. And it's just, I don't know if it's scheme or execution. I have a feeling it's probably a combination of both. The lack of a rim protector of any kind is damages the defense quite a bit. Also, the lack of ability to stay in front of the guy at the point of attack, whether it's Deuce or Shamet, who are our best, or anybody else for that matter. They just don't do it on a consistent basis. Some possessions, Deuce is very good. I remember one in particular where it was a fast break. He came back, got in front of his man, disrupted things, and so he does have glimpses and glimmers of that, but. I don't consider Deuce an elite point of attack defender. Like, I think he's good, but to rely on him to be a shutdown guy, I think you're going to be disappointed.
He's not Dyson.
Right.
But he's good.
Exactly that. Right. And so I think from that standpoint, it's problematic. I do think that the combination of Brunson, Hart, and McBride, obviously Brunson wasn't available last night, but the combination of Brunson, Hart, and McBride from a plus-minus standpoint when they've been out there has been outstanding, regardless of what other two players are out there. So maybe just getting that combination back and kind of leaning into it, even if it's a little bit small, is kind of the way to go moving forward. So I kind of think that if you're looking for optimism and hope, you kind of can go to that. And I think, we're playing better than our talent. We're playing worse than our talent level suggests. There's no doubt about that, but that happens sometimes. And you've got to find a way to shake loose of that and break free from that, because, we're a half game in front of Toronto for a tie for 4th place, and they play the Clippers at home tonight. They win tonight. We're tied for the 4th spot, and that 6th spot keeps getting closer and closer and closer. Like
2 games out of the
2
play-in.
games. Objects in the rearview mirror are closer than they appear, right? And so, is panic time? No, but we've got to, unslumping yourself is not easily done, as Dr. Seuss said, but we've got to figure out a way to make that happen, because these teams are going to keep coming in full force, and you can, in a blink of an eye, you can be in the play-in game, and that's not, if you're there, you might get around to the playoffs, but your season's pretty much over, for what our aspirations are at any rate.
I will say this, though. We did play the last 2 games without Brunson. Now, were we slumping even with Brunson? We were. But it's possible with Brunson we win this game last night, and we're 2-2. But if any update on Brunson?
No, but I think that he's not that far from coming back based on 2 things. He wasn't in a walking boot, and he didn't have crutches. And so those 2, you know what I mean? If it was one of those really serious, I mean, we've seen him leave the arena with a boot and then play 2 days later, multiple times this season, in fact. And so maybe I'm just reading into it. The Knicks medical staff is not going to give any updates. We're not going to get anything until game time, probably tomorrow night. But, I think that he'll be back soon. That doesn't mean Saturday soon, but I do think that there you go, day to day. But aren't we all? And day to day sometimes means he's out 6 weeks with the, So I don't know what day to day means, but hopefully it means in the lineup, because we're certainly better with him than without him. And anybody who doubted that the last 2 games certainly put an exclamation point on that. But how about OG Anunoby being aggressive? I loved his process last night. Just attacking constantly. It wasn't always successful, but he was in a full-on attack mode, and that was great to see from him. Mikal Bridges was getting killed on Twitter last night for when he had Curry in the post and he kind of settled for a weak jumper, but I think that was the only shot he missed for like 3 quarters. Like, he was on fire. I think he was like 8 of 9, and at one point at 21 points. Really efficient, nice ball game from him on the offensive end. And so, again, we're kind of like, you remember the scene from Friday? We don't ever have 2 things that match. Kool-Aid, no sugar, ham, no burger. That's what the Knicks are right now. We don't, we're not losing the same way. So we never have 2 things that match. Our starters, in my opinion, our starters played step for step on second night of a back-to-back with a very good team in Golden State. And our bench completely failed us. We got absolutely nothing from any of those guys. And that's not a surprise, because, as you said, Mitchell Robinson was in his load management phase, so that takes away 20 minutes of quality bench play. And Brunson's out of the lineup, so instead of 25 minutes of Deuce, you get those lineups as a starter and then some. And so but you got to be able to keep all the balls in the air when you're juggling things, and the Knicks have just done a poor job of that of late. That doesn't mean they always will, but they're certainly not doing what they're supposed to at the moment.
Yeah, I think my concern with the Knicks, like if you have a bad shooting game or a bad shooting stretch, you'll be like, you know what, they're engaged, they're playing hard, the shots aren't falling. That happens sometimes. That's not the case. The defense, to me, has just been a lack of commitment on the defensive end, just a lack of commitment. And I just wonder, is there anything going on with this team? Is there anything going on in the locker room? Like, what is sapping their energy? Is it just a physical thing or a mental thing from just playing every other night, first 2 nights off in a while, right? 2 days off in a while. Is it just that?
But then they look worse after finally getting a break. Like if it was the case of the fatigue, you would think that, well, they got a couple nights off, that you would come in and it would look better. And it was the exact opposite, which is kind of lends credence to your postulate that maybe something is rotten in Denmark, as I said on my post from my recap for the Kings game, which came out today. You know, there does seem to be something that's wrong internally, and I hear a lot of discussion about trades, rumors and stuff, but the trade deadline is 3 weeks away. We can't languish in this for 3 weeks. We'll be in the 7th, 8th, 9th spot if we play like this for another 3 weeks. So whatever it is, they need to, pull up their big boy britches and get over it and start to play ball again. And from the standpoint of Towns, at least, you saw that last night. I thought there's no questioning Towns' effort last night. The 20 rebounds, as you said, you can question some of his decision making. Absolutely. This thing where he has almost as many fouls as field goals is really becoming annoying. He's done that in 2 straight games. He has 18 fouls in his last 4 games, which is incredible. He leads the league in offensive fouls, which, is problematic. And some of it is up here and some of it is just flat out the expectation of the officials. I think at this point, they expect him to commit the offensive fouls. They're looking for it, and they just call it. It's kind of like how I'm going to use Draymond Green as an example. A couple years ago, when he was just getting technical after technical after technical because he acts like a jerk on the court, and the officials were keyed in on that. And so they were, as soon as they saw the slightest thing, boom, there you go. And Towns gets a bad whistle on one end and he lets it affect his play on the other. And you can't have that, especially since we needed him to be on the court for 40 minutes last night, not the 31 or whatever it was that he got. Cause I think it was +8 or something. Like, he was really good when he was in the lineup.
Plus he was the only player.
But he had to sit because he was in foul trouble. And a lot of that was on him. And so, when you're shorthanded, your top star, you can't afford your second best player to be, a persona non grata for, 18 minutes, 17 minutes. That's a quarter and a half playing without him. And we don't, when you get poor bench play, especially from our backup bigs, right? Because Yabu was awful, as we talked about, and Huck Porty did a decent job, but not in enough time. So you're not getting close to replacement level, value from the bench, because we don't really have a lot of it, especially when Robinson is not in the lineup. Then that really hurts your chances at winning. And it's crazy to me also that Draymond Green is 6'6". Towns is 7 foot tall. Don't try and bang with him and muscle him in the paint. Just shoot over the top of him. What's he going to do?
That was my point. You stole my point, but yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Exactly. Like, why? Not only are you taller, you have a great touch. He trying to go baseline. He's not letting you get. All he had to do was just turn to the right and put up a nice jump shot or hook shot or whatever you want to, whatever you want to do. When guys, you don't have the leverage. When guys are smaller than you, their waist is shorter than yours. You don't have the leverage unless you're going to get your waist all the way down and root them out. You don't have the leverage to move them. I've never understood that about Cat. He doesn't have lower body strength anyway, in my opinion. Just shoot over the top. I've never understood that about him. Never. Yeah. Anyway, let's get to the chat.
We got a super chat. I'm sure you saw it.
Great take debate. Detroit Piston fan rocking with us. We really appreciate you. Queen, Geoff, keep the faith. Otherwise, people look outside for saviors. for national media, San Antonio Spurs.
And they got Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith, sorry, has said he's looking to jump on the Pistons bandwagon.
You can keep him. We don't want him over here. If Stephen A. is going to be a Pistons fan, that's the best news I've heard from this 9-game stretch. Good riddance, and don't let the door hit you on the way out, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Stephen. Yeah. Stephen A. is all for clicks. All right, let's get to some of the chat. I think we put this up already. PMC White 2. I agree. This isn't the team that we are. I'm not exactly sure when they will turn it around, though. Yeah. Soon. I hope. JJ, somebody has to step up to Draymond when he did that dangerous play to Cat, grabbing his leg. It's a soft, weak team.
A lot of that sense of it going around right now and calling for an enforcer, but I don't think this is the 90s either. I don't know. You know, I want the team to be tougher. I get it from that aspect, but you know, what good does getting a technical foul and punching the guy in the face do? Like, you know, I don't know that what is the significant benefit of that? I'm not sure. I mean, I get that you should stick up for your teammates, yes, but you know, I don't know that, you know, getting in a fight and getting suspended for multiple games helps our cause very much.
I don't know if it needed to go that far, but I don't think there's anything wrong with just getting in his face, you know, throwing punches and the benches emptying, like that's another level. But I don't see anything wrong with somebody stepping to him and letting it be known like that's just not acceptable. Keith Turner, though, said, I grew up in the 90s basketball. That wasn't a dangerous play. I grew up in the 90s as well, watching 90s basketball, and it was a dangerous play. If somebody is going by you and you pull their ankle, like they can fall on their knee and crush a kneecap. Anything can happen. He could fall and injure a shoulder, depending on how he fell, injure the hip. It's a dangerous play.
That's how Mitch broke his foot in the playoffs. That's what Joel Embiid did, remember? He grabbed him by the leg when he was going up for a putback, and that's what broke his foot. And we didn't discover it, I don't think, for a little bit, but, you know, because I think he might have played in game 1 of the Pacers series with the injury. But, yeah, that is definitely dangerous and has no place in the sport. Look, basketball plays, like if you give a hard foul and you're trying to swat for the ball and you smack a guy in the face, okay, there's no place for grabbing a guy's ankle when he's going up for a layup. That's not okay in my opinion.
That's not 90s basketball either.
Yeah.
Lonnie Meeks, we can't blame the lack of defense on Brunson this time. We have got to find an answer for the poor perimeter defense. Well, I think part of it is stop overreacting to dribble penetration. Like, stop overreacting. You get beat. Let's see if they can hit a mid-range shot. Let's see what happens when somebody gets in the key. And we're in the key because we're supposed to be a paint-first defense where we're not giving up points in the paint. I think we're 5 on the season. I think over this last stretch, we might be 7 to 9, just the last 10 games in terms of opponent points in the paint. Let's see if they can hit a shot. I feel like the Knicks are just over-rotating, giving up wide open 3-point shots.
That's Josh Hart is really famous for that, though, being in the wrong position because he's over helping, and that causes. I remember a play last night where he was past the nail on the weak side, and the ball swung to the corner, and we actually our rotations were decent, but Moody ended up getting the corner 3 and knocking it down just because he was too far in help position on the weak side of the floor. So yeah, and Hart does that a lot. But I want to talk about Hart for a minute in a different aspect, because I think this is a key point as well. You saw the difference last night in a secondary playmaker, and a point guard.
Right.
And there's a big difference, right? When the Knicks were forcing turnovers, Hart was able to get out in the open court, and he had 5 assists, I think, in the first quarter when we were on that magical run when we took we were forcing turnovers, getting out in the open spot. And then in the second quarter and throughout the rest of the game, when they took better care of the basketball, and the Knicks all of a sudden were forced to work in the half court set, I don't think Hart got another assist or got an assist in half court play, because that's not his skill set, especially with Brunson off the floor. And so, and it shows a weakness to our game, because it's not really Clarkson's skill set, and it's not, and Kolek is supposed to be that guy, and he did have 5 assists last night, but the Kolek minutes, and maybe it was just who he played with, but I thought the Kolek minutes were really bad last night, and I don't think that we organized very well against half-court defense the entire night. I thought when they went to their bench in the second quarter, it completely transformed the nature of the game, and we struggled to put the ball in the basket for the final 3 quarters. We did make some shots and do some things, but it didn't look the same after that.
But that's my point, Geoff. Whether it's Deuce, whether it's Clarkson, I don't even put Hart in that conversation. We just don't have it. And Kolek, as good as he's been, he's going to be up and down. That's just part of being not a rookie, but a young player. We have, like, Clarkson can get in, he can take guys off the dribble, and he can create for himself if he's really focused. He can keep more than creating for himself in his head, and because he has the ability to create for others. I don't think that's always part of his mindset, and I'm just really afraid once we get into the playoffs, we don't have anybody that, and some would even argue Brunson is not that. We don't have anybody that's thinking the game. What do we need right now? I think we need to set up. I think we need to do this. I think we need to do this. We haven't gotten good shots the last few times. Like, who's that guy? When Brunson is not out, and some would argue even when he's in. Okay.
Yeah, I 100%. But I kind of think it opens back up the discussion about acquiring a backup point guard. Like, I think that, these last few games kind of accentuate the point for me that we're not, Kolek is not a solid answer in that spot. And we may need to get additional depth there to succeed in the playoffs, because you're not going to get that from Deuce, and you're not going to get it from Clarkson either, and you've got to get that from somewhere. We've got to be able to set up and preferably it's a guy whose point of attack defense is not Civ like too, because we certainly need help there. And probably one of the reasons why all the Alvarado rumors are percolating and circulating, if you will.
How did you think Deuce did? 25 points, 6 assists, but just in terms of process, what did you think?
I thought Deuce was our best player last night. To be honest with you, I loved the way that Deuce played last night. But I still consider him a shooting guard. Like, I don't think that, like, an undersized 2. I don't think that he's the answer for, I don't think that's his game necessarily, is to set up for others. I love his fearlessness with his shots, and his ability to make shots has been outstanding. Like I said, I thought he was the best player on the floor for the majority of the night last night. He kept us in the game, and he was playing really well in the first quarter when we were playing well. And so I was a big fan of Deuce last night, and he was balling. I mean, he's definitely part of the solution and not part of the problem. I just kind of wonder if if we still have the same 3 holes that we've talked about all season. And I'm wondering if you try and plug 2 of those before the trade deadline, or the Knicks hold on to all of their capital in hopes of making a big move in the offseason for Giannis or someone of that. Well, for Giannis.
Yeah. I thought Deuce was good offensively. I didn't think he was great as a point guard, despite the 6 assists, and I didn't think he was great defensively. I thought he was okay as a point of attack defense, but as far as his shot making, I thought he was really, really good. And some of those shots were tough shots, but he's not a point guard. He's just, he's just not. I think he was okay in that regard, but it's not really a role for him, in my opinion. But until Jalen Brunson gets back, that's that's what he's gonna, that's what it's gonna be. I do think he made some good decisions with the ball, but there would be a difference between Deuce and if we had a legitimate floor general.
And that person could help Deuce, because if he's doing what he's setting the table, that means more open, easier looks for McBride. And he's shown to be a very capable and willing 3-point shooter. So the more catch and shoot opportunities we can get him, the better off we're going to be as an offense, because he's been a legitimate, top of the league, really, 3-point shooter for the majority of this year. I mean, I know we had, at Portland and Sacramento, he kind of struggled in both of those games to make shots, but from the perimeter. But other than that, he's been one of the probably top 10 in the league in knocking down perimeter shots all season long.
Right. In his role. Right.
In his role, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. No doubt about it. All right. Let's get to a few more, and then we are out of here. D. Grant, 63. Brown has to put in Kolek because of his passing. I think he stabilizes the offense by getting everyone involved. I think theoretically that's the case. I don't think it happens all the time.
It certainly didn't last night.
Right.
At all. Like, they locked him up, and I think he was minus 12 or something like that in 12 minutes or so. He was not that player last night, and he's too much like Brunson defensively to, I think he tries harder, probably a little bit better defender than Jalen, but at the same time, he presents the same difficulties without the consistent scoring. So that really, really makes it critical that to maximize him on offense, and he just hasn't been that player in the last couple of games.
I think he's a much better defender than Jalen Brunson, even a man, and I'm talking about on the ball. Like I see him move his feet laterally, and cut off the passing lane. I'm a bit surprised, because you would think that whoever he's guarding would be able to just get into the lane at will. And obviously I can't recall every single possession, and maybe I'm so shocked when I do see it that maybe I'm overrating it. But I just see him with his physicality, just body guys and just kind of, move his feet and keep him out the lane. But we need the other stuff as well. But listen, so like the guys that Kolek, Yabu, these 5-minute guys. Kolek is a young player coming in playing point guard. Like, that's going to take a few years, in my opinion. Like, so I don't have an expectation that every time Kolek comes in a game, he's going to be sharp. The offense is going to run well. He's going to pass players into shots. It's going to be up and down for Kolek. It just is. That's just part of the maturation process. And I think also part of, not all of our up and down season has been the mandate from the front office to get these young guys time. If you can argue, because Kolek is not at his best every game, you can argue that if Kolek's minutes went to, I don't know, somebody else, over time, the Knicks would be better in those minutes. You can argue that. If we never played Diawara and all in his minutes, those times when he started, those 16 minutes went to somebody else, maybe the Knicks would have been better. But that's the mandate. When you can sprinkle these kids in, young players in, and we're just going to have to live with the result. And sometimes it's going to be positive and they're going to help us win. And sometimes it's going to be negative minutes. Like last night, is going to be negative minutes. Let me know if you feel I'm being too hard on Kolik's minutes last night. For me, I'm just not expecting him to be great every night. FSIN 6897, good afternoon. Love what I saw from OG and Bridges last night, but our defense still suspect. Still have many concerns with Coach Brown. And somebody asked this question. Oh, it was him. Do you guys still believe in Coach Brown? And if so, why? I do. I'm just not a believer that when things go well, you're a great coach, and when things don't go well, you're terrible. I'm just not a believer in that. I've said this, I can't tell you how many times. He's better in the ways in which I needed him to be better. Though listening to Freezy yesterday when he did his show, he's not happy with the offense under Mike Brown of late. But how much of that is Mike Brown, and how much of it is the players just not moving and not executing?
Well, if the players aren't executing your game plan, that's that. I mean, yes, part of that is on the players, but then part of that is, I think, is why are they not listening to the coach, right? Like there's got to be a communication breakdown or something, and if they're flat out ignoring him, that makes it even worse, right? As a look on the coach, and it, I don't know why the Knicks don't seem to be embracing the spray and pray philosophy as much of late. Although last night I would argue that it was the most Mike Brownian performance that we've had in a while. Like the offense was attacking and flowing, especially in the first quarter. But I would argue that even throughout that game, we got in a track meet with the Warriors, which not necessarily the best idea, and they had a deeper bench and they outran us and outpaced us. I mean, I think that's an accurate descriptor of the game, but in a sense, I think we played more of a style that we want to play than we certainly than when we played the Kings or even the Suns. So,
but also keep in mind the defense is going to have something to do with it, right? It's not going to just be like, oh, the Knicks didn't execute the game plan well. Something is wrong with the Knicks. Well, maybe the other team had something to do with it. Like everyone knows what the Knicks are trying to do, right? So they may have had something to do with it in terms of how they played the Knicks, making it difficult. If they have better defenders and you don't have a deft ball handler like Jerrell and Brunson who can get into the lane, and they have really good defenders, they can keep you out the lane. They know the Knicks are trying to get in the lane. Maybe they decided that we're not going to over rotate when they do get in the lane. We're going to stay home with the shooters. So there's things that the other team is doing to mitigate and make it difficult for the Knicks to execute their game plan. And it's hard to tell unless you're like really keyed in. And I get into that sometimes when I'm watching a game. I'm a fan, obviously, and some games I'm in fan mode. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I got a recap show tomorrow. All right, let me follow OG. Let me see what he's doing. Let me see, what the other team is doing. Are they over-rotating? Are they staying home on the shooters? Like, it's like watching the game a different way because you can't tell by just the box score some of these things, right? And if you're looking for those things, then you can say, no, there was plenty of opportunity. The Knicks got into the lane at will. They just decided they were not going to spray the ball. And you could tell, like last year, there was pictures on Twitter, right? Where was it Randall or Brunson would get, well, not when Randall was here, would get into, and players would be around the 3-point line with their hands up, like waiting for the shot. And it would never come. You have to watch the game to see that, and say, well, you know what? Those guys weren't open. It's not just watch the game. You have to key on that because you can watch the game and still miss, and still miss it.
I agree with that, but what I'll add to that is that there's also the game within the game, right? So if you're the coach and you see, okay, these are our primary actions and they're taking those away, what adjustments are you making then? Because you think a defense can't take everything away, right? They can take
this particular team. They can if you are not a good team, but from this particular team, it's built in such a way that yes, we should be able to go to something else.
so I think that I don't know, and Lee or Freezy or Delusional would be much better people to ask than me. But are we making those game within the game adjustments? Because that's one of the things that Thibodeau got crucified for, and rightfully so, by the way, is we didn't. We just kind of said, the game tells you what to do and blah 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 blah, and the rest. But I kind of feel like with Mike Brown, we kind of fall into that same pattern. Maybe it's just old habits that are dying hard. So I'm not sure if that's the case, but I haven't really been able to tell that Mike Brown has seen, oh, okay, they're doing this. Well, we're gonna do this to counter that, and I don't know that that's happening a whole lot, but I'm interested to hear from the people who know better than I do if it is.
Mm-hmm. Keith Turner, I believe we can win a championship with Brown more than I ever would with Tibbs. I couldn't stand him. Okay. How does the chat feel about Mike Brown, to answer the question? Do you still believe in him? That was the question, right? Do you still believe in Mike Brown, and why? Jeff, do you?
To be honest, we don't look like a championship team at all. Like I don't look at what this team is doing through their body of work through half the season and say anything like it looks like a championship caliber team. Like I think they're a good team, but they're a team that doesn't really show the required toughness to win a championship. They're a team that doesn't play with any sort of consistency on a night-to-night basis. They're a team that struggles mightily on the defensive end of the court, to the point like you can't be a bottom two defense and have championship aspirations. And that's what we've been the month of January. Obviously there's context to some of those things, but right now through 41 games, I'm not saying he's done a bad job. We're on pace to win 50, which is about what we did last year. But we knew that Thibodeau's teams got better in the second half of the season. We saw that consistently, even in the year we missed the playoffs with him. I don't know if I have that same confidence right now with Brown, based upon how things are going. But again, we're just in a tough stretch, and it may be that this is just the bad stretch in the season, and then in a week and a half we've won 6 out of 8 and nobody's even thinking about this stretch. That is entirely possible, but as of right now, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in what Mike Brown is doing, and I think that his moves are actually causing him possibly to lose the locker room, and that would be catastrophic. As you said, something seems off, and I'm not sure that it's not the head coach's responsibility.
Fair. It'll play itself out over the court. Like I don't want to make like grand. We're in a rough patch right now. So I don't want to overstate, Mike Brown's.
And to be clear, I don't think getting rid of Brown at halfway through the season is going to help matters either. Like I think at the very least you have to extend him the rope to finish the season with this group and see what it does, right? I don't think that it's time for we're in a rough patch, knee-jerk reaction, get him out the door. That's not what I'm saying at all. He's in a rough patch, and this team hasn't really responded in the way that a championship team would, or the way that I would hope as of yet, outside of the Portland game, which I thought was a good response. But then, you had the good response, and then you took one step forward, and then you took like 7 steps backward in the Sacramento game, almost like you tumbled all the way down to the bottom of the stairs, in the next one. And then we rose a little bit in the Golden State game, but not enough to get back on the winning track. So, We shall see, but you've got to give him time. It's you can't make a final judgment halfway through the year.
You got to give the entire team
right
time. So I do want to address this. Sherwin, Steph, I have lost a lot of respect for you and Freezy. You are cat apologists. If you've lost a lot of respect, tune out to the show. You don't have to tune in, number one. Number two, I don't have to agree with you on Cat. If you don't like Cat and you think Cat is the worst player, fine. But keep in mind, your take on Cat is not the standard. So anybody who believes different than you are apologists. No, your take on Cat is your take on Cat. You're entitled to it. My take on Cat is my take on Cat, and I'm entitled to that. I'm not an apologist because I don't agree with you, just like you're not a hater because you disagree with me. And this is something that's going on all across Knick Twitter. If somebody disagrees, they're an apologist or they're a hater. People are allowed to have different opinions and not be an apologist or a hater. Do I walk around like I see you just like David Smith is in here every game talking about how he loves Cat? You in here every game talking about how you hate Cat. You spending a Cat is in your mind a lot. But if that's how you want to spend your time and your characters in the chat on Cat, that's fine. I'm not sitting here calling you a hater. That's your opinion. So don't sit here calling me an apologist because I have a different perspective from you on Karl Anthony Towns. He's not as bad as you make him out to be, in my opinion. You don't like him because he's not your type of player. He's one-dimensional. But Mitchell Robinson, who's just as one-dimensional on the other side, is one of your favorite players. Make it make sense. You like defense, so you can excuse an offensive player who's one-dimensional. Excuse me, a defensive player is one-dimensional. But you want to harp on one of the best offensive players to ever play this game in the history of the league at his position. But you want to pound on him game in and game out, but not talk about Mitchell Robinson. All right? So stop. Don't come in here calling me out as an apologist until you can look at yourself in the mirror and say you a hater on Cat. You're not looking at him objectively. You've said, oh, I don't care nothing about his offense because he just makes stupid decisions. He has low IQ. So you're going to just, a big part of what makes him special, you're just going to ignore that because you feel his IQ is low. Let's stop, Sherman. Let's and not just Sherman, Knick Twitter. People can have different opinions. It's okay. Like, that's why we're here, so people can have different opinions. Just disagree. All the other stuff, keep it to yourself. All right. All right. Okay. There's a lot of, listen, you don't have to be a Cat fan. You don't have, I just try to see both sides. That's all. All right. Humberto de la Haas, I just strongly believe in the Knicks team. Forget the haters. It's just a rough patch that Coach Brown specifically said was going to happen. Okay. Wiz BKLA, I am more confident with Brown than I ever was with Tibbs. Okay. D Grant 63, Coach Brown is a good offensive mind, but he does not prepare for the defensive end. He started out as a defensive coach. He said he was overly influenced when he was with Golden State. D Grant, I still think Tibbs is a better coach. He was just stuck in his ways. Okay. Kev Berg, Cat playing subpar has less to do with Mike Brown and more to do with Cat. Okay.
Well, since January, I think Towns is shooting 43% overall field goal percentage, and I think his 3-point shooting percentage is down to like 33. So he's definitely having his struggles from the field in a way that he hasn't really at any other point in his career. So I don't know how to account for that. The 20 rebounds leads me to believe that it's not an effort issue, which I didn't really think that it was for the most part anyway. But I don't know if it's an injury that he's not talking about that he's playing through, or he's just, but I mean, he's way below his career numbers. And so something is off, but I haven't been able to identify what exactly it is.
Nick Yak, Cat 57 million, Mitch 13 million. Who's been the better center for the games Mitch played? Okay. All right. I'm gonna leave that right there and let others answer that. All right. I think last one, East Blue Drew. I seriously think it's locker room thing. Like, look at what Spurs game. We were a different. That's what I'm saying. We were a different team. And it was like after that loss, where they came back and won, it's been downhill over that, since then, I should say. Yeah. Anyway, any last words?
Queen, thank you for the therapy session. That's what she gets paid to do, in case y'all don't know. And she did it again. I was in a bad place with this team last night. I'm very emotional after the loss, and I just mainly because I dislike the Warriors and Curry and Green so much. But half a night's sleep and a good conversation with a lot of really sharp folks has me back in focus on what we're talking about and what we need to do moving forward. Thank you.
I think you're going in and out again. Vaughn Allen, Steph feel like that's on Mike Brown, offensive restoration. I watch him intently in those scenarios, and he just allows JB to figure it out. Okay. All right. Geoff, I appreciate you. The chat, even Sharon. I appreciate you as well. The replay gang, I got to some more of the comments today. And like I said, I'll try to bring a few of them to the weekly show. And the silent listeners, man, we appreciate you, and all the content creators, man. This is disappointing, right? We came in with high expectations. We were going to watch this team, on their championship run. I, for one, never felt like the Knicks needed to win this year. I felt like they needed to figure out what they needed after the year, and if they won it, great. So we shall see how the rest of the season pans out. Geoff with his permanent salute. He's frozen on that end. Until next time, family.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Don't so.
Where you at?
Don't so.